So we're going to talk about making an av into a forum set. One of the first things that I'd like to say is that when you're making an av, keep your canvas as big as possible. So the starting size for an av, now I usually start at a height of 600 and a width of 800. Magica gave me those numbers and it sounds like a good start. I used to just kind of eyeball it based on what looked good to me, but no matter what, I would try to start kind of big. So right here I have a height of 507 and a width of 748. When I downsize it for my av and save that as a ping file or whatever I'm going to do, I still keep my PSP file in its original size before I cut my forum set. So the bigger your canvas for cutting from, the better. So I just took this, in fact I don't think this app ever got used for anything, it's not very good, but anyway I found it and I thought it would be a good example because we have these two faces here, we have a lot going on and it might be tricky to figure out how we're going to cut our av from it. Unfortunately I've already merged the files down. If I hadn't yet, I might probably cut the mega without having the shadowed face and do different things. But this is more a thing for sizing. This is a tutorial more for sizing the forum set than the designing. So we're just going to really kind of focus on sizing. So here we are. We have an av. We want to make a forum set. To get the right size for a forum set, for our set, we might want to just start right off with a new image for the SIG. Maximum size for a SIG is usually 600 wide, 250 high. So I'll start off with that. Create a new image and I have just my blank palette. Now we take our av, copy it, but instead of pasting as a new layer, we're going to paste it as a new selection, and this is going to allow us to kind of move it around. Now we can pick where we want to put it so that it looks nice. Now because I have a pretty big canvas, I have quite a bit of room to move around, but I'm still limited to the width here. So if I wanted to cut her out altogether, I'd have a problem. I wouldn't be able to cut her out unless I did some more artwork. What you don't want to do is, so I'm going to click to drop it there, and then I'm going to select none to get rid of the marching ants. Then on the pick tool, I'm going to stretch it. Whoop. There we go, it fits. No, do not do that because now you've stretched her, and these images can get to looking really bad really fast if you start stretching the models. If I were really determined that I needed more space over here, then I would have to do some fancy work. Like I might take the clone brush and take this background and move it over and do that kind of thing. I would do that before I would consider stretching the image. Okay? And that would be one way to go about it. Assuming I'm just going to work within the dimensions I have available, then I'm going to pick a nice spot for her, and like, as I said, I don't know a better way, but I can just go to select none to get rid of our marching ants if I've got them. And then over here, because I still have my PSP file, I can copy my font and bring it over and paste it as a new layer. If it's way too big, inner beveling and all of that kind of makes it so that if you try to shrink up and down your font, it can get really blurry. Even down. Originally I thought only making it bigger would make it blurry, but going down can too. So a way around that is to resize just that layer. And this is something I just kind of figured out recently, so I'm still playing with knowing exactly how big to make them. But down here, unclick resize all layers, be on the layer with the font, and then choose something bigger or smaller than what it says that layer currently is. So I might go to 150 and see what that looks like. Okay, so that's a lot better. And then I can move it over to wherever it is that I want to put it. Okay, so that would be to make my sig. To cut the, shoot, I keep doing that. To cut the mega, we'd start off with our new square, and you can make the square whatever size you want. I'm going to do a 200, but you could start with a really big square and then just resize it. It doesn't have to start off the actual size. So now I'm going to copy this because I'm not sure I still have it. And I'm going to paste again as a new selection, and I'll move it around until I find a good spot. Now, it's really kind of too big to put enough of her on there. You know how the megas are, you can do something cute. But at any rate, right now, if I just wanted to have a nice headshot, she's a little too big. So I'm going to click to put it in place, then I'm going to select none, and then I'm going to have the ability on the pick tool to resize. And then I can play around with her placement. And that kind of gives me a nice spot to put an initial or even a whole name if it's short enough. So again, I can go back here and I can grab the font work, paste it as a new layer, resize it to maybe 80, and so then, like, if I just want the S, sometimes I can just go back and erase everything but the S. Since this is just a sample anyway, it's not that big a deal. And that will give you your perfect square mega. So that's one way to cut your form set without messing up your sizing and stretching your images and stuff. Here's kind of a simpler way to do it if circumstances are right. You can take your original av and just say, right here would be cute for the, right here is where I want my sig to come from, or right here, wherever. Now in this case, I didn't go and find the original PSP file. This is just the ping file, so I don't have the ability to move my font work, but I would do that with a PSP file and be able to move the word around so that I could put it where I want. When I do this kind of cut, it's really more eyeballing then. I have to kind of cut it and then check the size ranges and see if it's going to fall into that comfortably 200 to 250 high, 5 to 600 wide, 550 to 600 wide, or whatever standard you're using for whatever forum. And then also for the mega then, I will oftentimes just eyeball a square. And again, you can start off with whatever size you want, because then you can always minimize it down. And this is, trial and error. I've gotten pretty good at estimating a square, but what happens is I'll cut it, which again, I would have moved the font work if I had a PSP file. And then I'll look at resize and say, oh boy, so I am way off. I've got way too much width. So then either I'll undo the cut and adjust my height to get somewhere closer to a square. Oh, I know why. This monitor I'm not used to. This is a different computer, and it makes things look narrower than they are for some reason. So you can see I'm still well off. On my computer upstairs, I've gotten pretty good at eyeballing it. But I can usually eyeball it pretty close and then maybe just shave a little off the height or shave a little off the side. So that's kind of a shortcut way of cutting a set. one more thing is, what if your original av isn't all that exciting, and when you cut the sig, it's kind of boring looking? So let's go back to this sig template. So I have my 250 high, 600 wide, and I'll cut from here. So let's take the layer, copy, paste as a new selection, and we move her around, and okay, so she's pretty there, but that's an awful lot of blank space, and the bottom half of her is awfully pretty. Be kind of nice to bring some of that in maybe, right? So what you can do is, because this part's pretty nice, so what you can do is select none. Oops, hello. I don't know what I did. Selections, select none. Why is it disappearing on me? Okay, so now it's just a raster layer. It was hiding it, I guess, just because the one below it was hiding. So anyway, it's a raster layer now. It's just a normal layer. So now I can drop another. I'm going to drop, just because I'm afraid of piling on the same raster layer. So I'm going to go down to this bottom layer, and I'm going to paste another selection of that same image if I can. There it is. Okay, so now, what the heck? Oh yeah, I gotta put it up to the top. So I drop another layer over of this selection, and I'm gonna put it over top and find a pretty spot for it, right? I could even resize it and put the whole of her there if I wanted. Whoops, love it when that happens. But whatever you might want to put there, smaller version of her. But you know, like this bottom half is pretty. So let's say we just wanted to do that. And maybe make it not so noticeable, so I'll back it off. Now I've got this line here, so I'll take my eraser, and I like to go a little big so that the edge is soft, and just kind of blend it in. There, now I can have a little more going on with my sig and still not be stretching the image out. So that's just an idea of how you might fill your sig from side to side a little better. And you can play around. There's lots you can do, but in terms of getting the sizing started and giving yourself the proper form size canvas, these are some ways to do that.